actually require two trials. The first is determined in a consecutive way, mitigating and aggregating factors and determining whether death is appropriate sentence. In contrast, more than 90% of non-capital murder cases are resolved by plea bargaining, eliminating the cost of trial, and in most cases the appeal as well. The total cost for Illinois capital case have not been thoroughly studied. The Maryland study pegged the cost at a mind-boggling $37.2 billion per execution. All of these costs are paid for by taxpayers.
Okay, so as I'm reading this, I'm like kind of going through it and I'm underlining, boxing certain things, just like this is how my mind works. I'm thinking to myself, what was the argument that this person was making? These are 4 paragraphs that kind of said a lot of things, but what was the main argument that they were making? What was the main argument in just those 4 paragraphs? What was the main thing? Shannon.
Them giving reason why they should make it illegal.
Good, and what's the reason why that they were saying?
Because of how much money it costs.
Good. All right. They're saying the death penalty, I'm going to say DP, and you guys can write this down as well. Death penalty is, I'm just going to give us $. Death penalty costs a lot of money because there are multiple trials, there are lots of appeals that go in, and did anybody catch who gets the bill for this? Who are the ones who all end up paying for the death penalty to be continued in Illinois? Khadijah. Me, you say? Me. All right, the taxpayer. Not necessarily you all because you don't pay taxes, but either a parent, once you have a job, once you own a home, right, you have to pay taxes. All those taxes, have you learned about them in Mr. Franklin's class yet? A little bit? No. Okay. So all those taxes go up and they're kind of put into a pile for the governor to decide what to do with them. And he allows a certain amount of them to keep the death penalty going. In fact, a lot of it. In the video we watched, they said that $100 million were spent this year in Illinois to keep the death penalty up and running. Okay, so it's really expensive. Who was next to read? Tavon?
Despite the astronomical cost, there will be a sound of argument for keeping the death penalty in each other crime. But although some died in harsh support of the capital punishment, contend otherwise the facts are granted. Clear Illinois stopped execution in 2000 when the former governor George Ryan declared a moral authority that his successors have kept in place. So what has happened to Illinois murder rates in the interim? In 1999, according to the FBI, there were 939 murders in Illinois. Since then, murders have declined, falling to the 3-decade low last year of 773 down 7% from 1999.
Good. Nisha.
But the clincher on the deterrence argument seems to be that according to a recent poll commissioned by the Illinois Coalition to abolish the death penalty, just 39% of Illinois voters were aware that the state still has the death penalty. The other 61% even thought it had been abolished.
Anybody else in the right section? Shannon. The next two for us.
After my punishment constantly like Illinois people don't even know that you can't, of course.
Okay, so in that part, what was the main thing? What was the main argument that the author was giving? Just in this box down here, in these parts right here. What's the main argument the reason that the author is against the death penalty? Nakia.
Some people don't know it exists even though it's unconscious. Like most people don't know that it exists and it can't be a crime for something they didn't know was that.
I think you're a little bit mixed up. Basically, can someone give it another try, help her out? Moesha? Did it go down? Okay, so what this is saying is that in the last 10 years, there's been a stop to the death penalty. It still exists in Illinois, but the cases have all been reviewed for the last 10 years. During that time, the crime rate has actually gone down. So there's been no threat of the death penalty for the last 10 years, but the crime rate has gone down. So that, what argument is that saying? What is that saying? It's one of the ones we've already talked about. Tavon.
It's saying that the death penalty don't teach a lesson. It just is, it's not no meaning of it. Instead, you could send them in jail or something like that.
Okay, good. I'm gonna put that in the words of like some of the death penalty experts. Death penalty doesn't deter crime, or in other words, it doesn't scare the criminals away from committing the crime. Last paragraph. Finish this off, Ishmael.
Thus, it's fair to say that everyone has the experience with capital punishment has been a toxic exercise that has not even deterred crime and has left a great sin executing person. Governor Quinn made the right choice.
Okay, so right there, if you look at your activity under the redo, the first redo on your other sheet, it says, what is the author's purpose? What is the author's purpose in this article? What is the author's purpose? Do I need to model that one for you? Do you think someone can kind of model it for me? Answering, what is the author's purpose here? Regia? I'm going to push back. I'm going to say it's only one. Anybody disagree? Okay, so she narrowed it down to 2. Persuade. Why is it to persuade, Anthony? What is it doing? Okay, so it's trying to persuade people to be against the death penalty. And even more specific, it is persuading Governor Quinn to ban the death penalty. Now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look through this because I've already got it all marked up for myself because I know a couple of the arguments, the reasons that support this argument. The first one that I have boxed is that the death penalty costs a lot of money. The next one that I have boxed is that the death penalty doesn't deter criminals. And finally, those are the 2 that I really felt that he was doing a good job of getting in this article. But there was one more that he mentioned very briefly. Excuse me. What was one that he didn't make a bunch of paragraphs on it? But what was one of the reasons he said that was pretty brief? He said it close to the end and also close to the beginning. I need a couple of heads up over there. Jonathan. That's part of the deterring criminal. What's one that you mentioned very briefly, Marcus?
He said innocent people. Innocent people can be killed.
Good. Risk of killing the innocent. So you are going to go through the opposite article. It's a shorter one. It's not quite as complicated. The reasons are pretty straightforward for someone arguing that the death penalty is necessary. You're going to go through it, and you are simply answering the same questions that I did. You're doing what's the purpose, and you're turning over to the next page, and you're just giving me some reasons that the author gives. Okay, this is right now going to be a level 0, meaning that you are working independently, silently, by yourself. You have, I'm going to give you 6 minutes. 6 minutes to read that article and do the same exact process that I just did with you, but by yourself. Are there any questions before we start? Okay, I'm feeling a couple people